Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? Today I wanted to do a review on a game that I played recently, and I really enjoyed it. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. I'm gonna say it straight up, this is one of the most underrated games I have ever played in my life. And even though it's pretty early on, it may be the most underrated game of 2019. This game did not have crazy marketing behind it like many AAA titles, but the Ace Combat fanbase was very strong, and the hype they created for this game was worth it. If you type Ace Combat 7 in on Google, the first review that will come up is IGN. Don't pay attention to the IGN review. It's one of the worst reviews I've ever seen for a video game. Most Ace Combat fans will tell you the same. After I saw that review, I said I'm going to do an actual review on this game. Now this review, it won't have spoilers, but I will mention what the story is about. So now let's get started. Ace Combat 7 is an air combat game that takes place in the fictional world of Strangereal, which has fictional countries and continents. The Ace Combat lore is huge, and it would take me hours to explain all the backstory behind all the countries. What made the Ace Combat games so great in my opinion was the story, which they have always been very strong in. My first Ace Combat game was Ace Combat 4, which came out in 2001, and that game had the strongest connection to Ace Combat 7. In Ace Combat 4, we fought the country of Erusea in the Continental War, who was invading its neighbors. The Continental War ended in 2005 with Erusea's surrender, and the Erusean royal family returned to power after being in exile. However, 14 years later, in 2019, Erusea invaded and seized the International Space Elevator in southern Usea, the continent, triggering the Lighthouse War. The player's country, the Osean Federation, built the space elevator as a means to provide energy and power to much of the Usean continent. Erusea claimed the elevator violated their sovereignty and seized it. I would not say you need to play the older Ace Combat games to fully understand the story, as they do explain it pretty well and paint Erusea as clearly being the aggressor, but parts of the story may get confusing if you didn't play the previous titles. I have seen the IGN review of Ace Combat, and it was one of the most unprofessional reviews I have ever seen. They were complaining that the story was too difficult to follow. If you pay attention to the story, you should have no problem following it. The story in this game was great, and I really did enjoy it. There's also a huge level of detail in the character discussions, as you might want to play the story a few times to go back and understand why a character did something later on. The cutscenes are beautiful, and I wish they would turn this into an anime TV show based on the series. The main antagonist in the game is Mihai, or he's often called Mr. X, but his full name is...
Was originally from Shalaji. His real name is Mihai Dumitru Margarita Corneliu Leopold Blanca Carol Aeon Ignatius Raphael Maria Nikitas A. Shalaji.
Yes, that is his full name. In almost every Ace Combat game there is a main villain that's a rival Ace, and here it's Mihai. He is Erusea's best pilot, but he's not even Erusean, he's Shalazian. He's from a small country that Erusea had invaded and conquered many years ago. He is actually descended from the Shalazian royal family. When I first played the game, I was very interested by his backstory, and I was thinking to myself, why is he flying for Erusea when Erusea had done such terrible things to his homeland? That question is answered later in the game. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. I thought he was a great antagonist, and I did enjoy his backstory in fighting him. The story in Ace Combat 7 is 20 missions, and while some may consider this short, most missions take between 20 to 30 minutes. The story took me around 8 to 9 hours to fully complete. I did consider it a decent length. The missions are also very unique in this game. No two missions felt the same to me, and I enjoyed all of them. The developers really outdid themselves with making unique missions. There's one mission where you actually have to fly through a sandstorm, where it messes up your radar. There's another one where you have to fly through a lightning storm, where the lightning can actually hit your jet. Another one where you have to fly really low below the radar, through a fog. And if you fly too high, a missile will go after you. There's so many unique missions. There's even a stealth mission in this game. Take a look at this.
Strider 1, you've passed through waypoint 2. The valley's about to get narrower. Be careful.
When can we take on the final mission? I'm starting to get tired of all this.
This is the last step, Count. We'll take the enemy base and use it as a bridgehead.
Watch yourselves out there. We're going to need all of you in Farbanti. Without Wiseman here, everybody wants to give orders like they're the company commander himself. The best thing about Strider Squadron is that our leader keeps his mouth shut. Watch your speed.
You've passed waypoint 3. You're coming up on the base, imposing radio silence. We won't be able to talk again until you're over the base. Continue to keep an eye on your altitude. There are plenty of dark spots that can sneak up on you.
The Ace Combat games have also been known for their crazy super weapons, and this one is no exception. The Arsenal Bird is a new enemy that appears, but it's actually an Osean weapon captured by Erusea. The Arsenal bird is not piloted by a person, but a machine in the air. It drops down many drone fighters. The drones appear several times in the game, and they're one of the main points of the story is about how far technology will go. Will the drones actually replace human pilots? I like that aspect of the story. Another super weapon is Stonehenge, a series of powerful railguns designed to destroy the Ulysses asteroid. In the Ace Combat games, a lot of the wars that have started in the world revolved around the asteroid's impact on Strangerreal in 1999. The asteroid had devastated a lot of countries and caused entire economies to collapse. Before the disaster, many countries built super weapons to destroy the asteroid before the impact. Unfortunately, they failed in time. These weapons were then used in various conflicts around Strangerreal. Stonehenge was first used by Erusia, who took it over in the Continental War in 2003 during Ace Combat 4. During that war, 7 out of 8 railguns were destroyed, leaving 1, which reappears in Ace Combat 7. For longtime fans of the series, this means a lot to them, seeing Stonehenge once again. It brings back a lot of memories, especially for me playing Ace Combat 4, one of my first PS2 games. It was a nostalgia trip for my childhood. Farbanti, the capital of Erusia, returns as well. And just like in Ace Combat 4, the municipal part of the city is underwater still. A lot of new players think the city is flooded because of the battle, but it really is flooded because of events 20 years ago. A fragment of Ulysses crashed outside Farbanti and flooded a huge portion of the city. Erusia refused to move their capital, keeping the flooded district. You can even see the huge crater from the meteor still there, and I love it. I love that they kept these details in. A lot of other developers, when they make new games, they forget the stories in their older games because they want to just focus on attracting new gamers. But it means a lot to me that they kept these details in. But the level of detail gets even better. The ground is much more detailed than past Ace Combat games, and not only that, but also this level of detail, it's in your squad mates. In the story, you transfer through 3 squads. One at the beginning, the second in the middle, and the third in the final quarter of the game. I enjoyed the middle squad the most. I liked all the characters overall in the game, even the enemies. There is one character in the game that can be a little annoying. On many of the missions, he constantly talks about his son and how he's going to tell him about each mission. There's even one part where he says he's not proud of what happened and he won't tell his son about that. Despite these scenes, I still liked him overall as a character, though I saw a lot of people joking about him in the comments. Depending on what things you do during missions, your teammates will react differently, which I was very surprised by. For example, if you destroy a certain target, your teammates will comment on it. Or if you do something crazy, they will as well. I mean, just take a look at this. Me destroying all the bombers on the runway before takeoff. Look at what my teammates say after.
Set off a chain reaction. At least stop us from spreading.
Target confirmed destroyed. Trigger again.
You're hitting 3 locations. Some have air power, so their threat levels vary. Think of the best way to rob them of their ability to respond. Use those empty heads of yours. If you die too fast, you won't even be useful as targets. And regular aircraft that join later needing any...
All bombers destroyed before takeoff. Who did that?
Scratch one hostile.
That was fast. Keep up the good work.
They will also comment on other crazy things like this.
Vehicle down.
Bandit acquired.
Trigger crashed. Truly idiot.
No, he flew into the tunnel. He's crazy.
More guests on the horizon. Keep up the attack.
But it gets even better. The enemies will also comment on your actions, and they will panic on the ground if you're destroying everything. I love this level of detail. I love that we can hear the enemy communications and their reactions. Listen to this. It feels like we're actually fighting an enemy on the ground.
Heat.
Disengage from the building. Shove off. Hurry. We can't afford to be targeted right now. Stop. Any more damage to the base. You overwhelm them with our superior numbers.
Hesitate to fire if you keep one of them close.
We've lost 60% of our air defense weaponry. We can't hold out much longer. Call for help ASAP.
Cruiser confirmed destroyed.
What? We've lost the entire fleet? I'll need to inform headquarters to watch out for planes bearing that emblem.
Box 2.
VLS 1 and 2. Ready ship to air missiles. Strike when they pop up, right before the attack. Fjord has heavy damage. Catapults are no longer working. We'll come down. We have to retreat.
Nice job out there. I guess the rumors have heard about you are true. The enemy has lost 30% of their fleet. If you don't stay sharp, you'll be meeting Davy Jones. They're doing us...
I have not played an air combat game since Ace Combat Assault Horizon, and it's really good they returned to Stranger Reel. It was the fans that really pushed it, and Bandai Namco has to be complimented for listening to the fans. You will admire how beautiful this game looks, the graphics are very impressive, and the combat is very smooth. When you first play the game, I recommend you go into the controls and change it to expert settings. It's a lot easier to fly with and makes your aircraft more maneuverable. I played on novice for some missions and it kind of messed me up when I was so used to it, so you want to change it early on. The customization in this game is pretty impressive. There's about 29 aircraft that I counted, and in order to unlock the new aircraft, you have to buy them, but you get plenty of money completing the missions. And what's nice is that you can use all of your unlocks in multiplayer, so I strongly suggest to finish the story first. The unlock system works in a skill tree. In order to unlock the jet you want, you have to pick a certain path and then follow it in the unlock tree. You can't choose your aircraft directly unless it's the next one in line to unlock. There are multiple paths to take in the tree. Some people don't like this style, but I'm fine with it, because they're trying to get you to play around with all the different aircraft in the game, not just pick the one you want from the start. There's also plenty of weapon customization, different weapons depending on the jet, and you also have different parts you can upgrade your jet with to make it even more effective. There's also emblem and skin customization for them. However, one negative thing I found about the customization is that you can't customize your squad's jets, which the older Ace Combat games 5 and 6 let you do. There's also no command system, where in the older games there was different commands you could give to your squad. I understand you're not the commander in a lot of missions, but I still wish those commands were there. The only other negative thing I didn't like about the single player is that your teammate AI, it's not the greatest. It's not absolutely terrible. Sure, they do shoot down enemies. I've seen them do it. However, there are several times in the story where your teammates say, "I got you covered," and you go rushing to the objective and your teammates are not actually covering you, and you have a bunch of enemies spamming missiles at you. There's one level in the single player where you have to destroy a series of targets very quickly before time runs out or you fail, and your teammates, they don't cover you during it. The teammate AI should have been a little better, but other than that, I had no problem with story mode. The levels were unique, the story was decently long, and I really did enjoy it. It was a masterpiece. And not only is the gameplay a masterpiece, but also the soundtrack is just so beautiful in this game. I love the soundtrack, and some of the music and some of the levels, they just add so much more life to them. I mean, just take a listen to this. Listen to how beautiful the soundtrack is.
Gee, looks like luck is on our side.
Strider 1, bandit splashed. Enemy is locked on. Break away.
Ace Combat 7 also has a separate virtual reality campaign, currently exclusive to the PS4. It may come to PC in the future. I have the PS4 and I have the VR, so I decided to give it a try. It was really fun, and I was very impressed by the level of detail they put into the cockpit alone. I actually had to look to my side to find the radar and where the enemies were. The VR campaign is 4 missions in total and takes place years before the Lighthouse War. It takes place in 2014 during the Free Aruzia uprising. Free Aruzia is a terrorist group that wanted to put the old regime back into power after Aruzia's defeat in the Continental War in 2005. For years they have been rebelling, but gained a lot of weapons during the Circum-Pacific War, where Osea and Yuktobania had fought each other in 2010. That was the war during Ace Combat 5. Both countries were still recovering from this war, and Free Aruzia took advantage of it. You play as Mobius 1, the same pilot from Ace Combat 4 that ended the Continental War. He is still flying 9 years later. He is part of the IUN peacekeeping force. This mode does not have the same amount of jets as the regular campaign, but that's understandable because it's VR mode, so it won't have everything from the main game. I did really enjoy the VR mode. However, though, I did get sick in the middle of it. I had to do some flips and take out some enemies around some sides, and I kind of got motion sickness from it. I was getting dizzy and a little nauseous. However, I don't hold the game responsible for this. It's my own body. That's my fault. Some people, they do not get sick at VR, while others don't. It's not necessarily the game's fault. It's more the individual's body. Eventually, I will get used to it, but just a warning to anyone who plans on playing this in VR. You may get sick in the middle of it. Depends on who you are. Some people get sick, some people don't. I don't know what really causes that, but I've talked to a few of my friends. They play it, no problem. They don't get sick. I got a little sick, but I'm gonna get through it, and I really hope I can finish the VR campaign without getting sick anymore. But just make sure if you do feel a little ill while you're playing it, take a break. The VR mode, though, it's absolutely amazing. I would give it a perfect score. I was very impressed by it, and Namco did an amazing job by adding it in. While it is short, you have to remember many games that have VR features, they have very little content, but here we are offered 4 missions. They could have just had one. If you have a PS4 and you have VR, or you plan to get it in the future, you need to get Ace Combat 7 because VR mode is one of the best for Ace Combat 7, one of the best VR modes that I've ever played. You really want to try it. Ace Combat 7 also offers a multiplayer portion. Here you can see me playing a match. It really depends on what you think of it. I have talked to some people who don't like it, while others praise it. Me personally, I felt like it was the weaker portion of the game. I did enjoy the multiplayer. I thought it could have offered more content. There are 2 modes in the multiplayer, Team Deathmatch and Battle Royale. Battle Royale is not actual Battle Royale mode, but just Deathmatch. It's basically free-for-all. I don't know why it's called Battle Royale, that's just the title of it, but it's Deathmatch. You can use all of the aircraft from single player in multiplayer, and what's great is that your single player progress, it actually carries over into multiplayer. Any jet that you unlock in single player, you can use in multiplayer, and you're not forced to play multiplayer to unlock more stuff either. You can go back and play story missions to unlock more stuff. I very strongly suggest you don't play multiplayer until you beat the story, because chances are other players will start with some of the best aircraft and weapons and you'll get destroyed. The multiplayer only has a few maps, and most of them have day and night variants. I really wish the multiplayer had a co-op mode though. It doesn't have to be story based, but some kind of mode where you can mess around with your friends fighting AI enemies. Maybe a survival mode where you fight waves of enemies until an arsenal bird spawns. I mean, that would be really fun. A lot of people want co-op in this game. They could still add it potentially in the DLC, so we will have to see. The other problem with the multiplayer is that people spam special weapons like the railgun, which is very powerful. It has no lock-on, it's manual aim instead, and it's very hard to dodge. You die in one hit. They also spam the QAAM missiles. 95% of the battles I see, people use nothing but the special weapons. They very rarely use the machine guns, which I use, and they'll spam these special weapons constantly. The good thing is that if you're the host, you can turn them off. I was so happy that you could turn off the special weapons. I was hosting a match where this guy kept using the railgun every match. I lost 4 matches in a row. I did not just lose, but I got destroyed. I asked him to please stop using the railgun, but he wouldn't respond to my messages. Then after 4 matches of losing, I looked in the settings, and I found out if you're the host, you can disable them. I disabled the special weapons, and this guy who was using the railgun constantly then started spamming me to turn it back on. Well, the next few matches didn't go well for him. He actually had to use a different weapon. He lost every match because he was so used to that weapon, he had no experience with anything else. I just personally enjoy the game a lot more when you have to use the standard missiles and the machine gun. The multiplayer can be pretty fun, and I enjoy Team Deathmatch the most, where you're communicating with your teammates. I was playing with one of my friends, and we were communicating, and when my friend got attacked, he would tell me that somebody's following him. I would get behind him and I would shoot that guy down, pursuing him. This made me feel like I was more in an air squadron, and it was fun. The multiplayer, it could be better for co-op mode, but it still offers some extra content. However, the single player is really where the majority of fun is at. Before I give my final verdict for Ace Combat 7, I wanted to make a special mention. If you pre-ordered Ace Combat 7, you got Ace Combat 5 for free if you were on the PS4. If you were on the Xbox and you pre-ordered Ace Combat 7, you got Ace Combat 6 for free. You get a full game for free just for pre-ordering. I'm normally against pre-orders, I don't support them, but here I'll make a special exception. You pre-ordered the game, you got a full game for free, just for pre-ordering it. And I definitely think this was worth pre-ordering for. I pre-ordered it, my copy of Ace Combat 5, I got the download code. It was a little late, but it was the retailer's fault. It really wasn't the developer's fault. But you get a full game for free. And Ace Combat 5, I have it on the PS4. It's a great game. It's a very long story. Decent story as well. A lot of great gameplay. It's an older game, obviously, but still, a lot of people should get the chance to enjoy it and experience it. Unfortunately, if you buy Ace Combat 7 now, you won't be able to get Ace Combat 5. I hope they release it on the PlayStation Store. And Bandai Namco has to be commended for this, because other developers, if they tried to do something like this, if you had like EA or Activision, they would be basically like, oh, you want Ace Combat 5? Well, guess what? You got to pay an extra $10 here. You got the full game for free just for pre-ordering it. You didn't have to pay any extra money. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. I love that. I hope more game companies do something like that in the future. Thank you for giving me Ace Combat 5 on the PS4, and I hope anybody else is playing it on the PS4 is enjoying it, and anybody is playing Ace Combat 6 on the Xbox, I hope that you're enjoying it as well. And here at the end, we come to our pros and the cons. And the pros are, It's an amazing story and of decent length. The story took me between 8 to 9 hours to complete, and even though it is 20 missions, most missions will take you between 20 to 30 minutes, so the length is there, and the story is just absolutely amazing. I love the story. I had no real complaints about the story. I liked all the characters as well. I liked the setting of the war. I'm so happy they went back to Stranger Real, the original Ace Combat universe, and they didn't do our world like they did in Ace Combat Assault Horizon. The fans didn't really like that. Don't listen to IGN on their review. They say the story is too hard to follow. If you pay attention to the story, you should have no problem following it. They don't have any idea what they're talking about. I do suggest that you at least watch a walkthrough of the older Ace Combat games on YouTube, just so you get an idea of the backstory behind these countries. If you don't do that, you might get a little confused in the story, but still, I don't think you necessarily need to play the older ones. You just need to pay attention to the war that's going on in the game, and it has beautiful graphics. The game just looks absolutely beautiful, stunning. It has unique mission design. No two missions really felt the same to me. There's just so many different missions in this game. One where you fly through a lightning storm, one a sandstorm. There's 2 stealth missions in the game. There's just so much variety, and also different kinds of enemies that you fight. Great level of detail, in the characters, what they comment on, the enemies, the locations. Has a great soundtrack. Beautiful soundtrack. I loved it. Great customization for the planes. A lot of planes to unlock, a lot of different weapons to use, and also different parts to combine with your plane. And you get Ace Combat 5 and 6 if you pre-order it on PS4, Ace Combat 5, on Xbox, Ace Combat 6, and there's a VR mode. They didn't really need to include that, but they put a VR mode in. That could have been a DLC. Other companies, they could have tried to sneak that in as a DLC. They would have been like, oh, separate VR mode, $9.99. But they put it on the disc itself. So I do really appreciate that. It is only on PS4, but I decided to put it on a Pro there because I did play on the PS4 and I did enjoy that additional content. And the cons are, no squad customization. I think some people were disappointed by this. In the older Ace Combat games, Ace Combat 5 and Ace Combat 6, we had the ability to customize our squad mates' planes and also give them orders. Doesn't really happen in Ace Combat 7, so there's no command system either. And the squad AI, it could be better. It's not the worst because I do see them kill people, but a lot of missions, your squad mates will talk to you. They'll say to you, I got you covered, Trigger, that's your character, and they don't actually cover you. And the final con is the multiplayer. It lacks modes. It only has 2 modes, Team Deathmatch and Battle Royale, which is Deathmatch. And, a lot of the maps, I should say, they're day and night cycles. So there's not really that many maps either. I wish there was some kind of co-op. The majority of the community, they want some kind of co-op. They want us to be able to fight ground targets. So I do hope they add co-op and they add more modes. They could do that potentially in the DLC. So, we'll have to see. And, my final verdict on this game, it will be a 9 out of 10. And the only reason it doesn't get a perfect score is because the multiplayer lacked some modes, and, the squad AI could be better with the customization. But other than that, I think this game is absolutely flawless. Even if you're not into air combat games, I think you should check this game out. I haven't played an air combat game in years, and I absolutely love this game. I did enjoy it. I definitely will be playing this game for years to come, and I hope this is not the last Ace Combat game. I hope that there's another one after this. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. If you guys do have this game, let me know in the comments. What do you guys think of it? Do you agree or disagree with my review? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the review, drop a like. If you're new to my channel and enjoy my content, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.